This video is brought to you by the University Writing Center, a unit of the Department of Rhetoric and Writing at the University of Texas at Austin. You can contact us at uwc.utexas.edu.
Hey Mac, so are you ready to talk about summarizing now?
Let's do it.
Okay, so as our jumping off point, we use the rhetoric textbook Becoming Rhetorical by Jodi Nicotra, which is currently the book we use in the Rhetoric 306 class, which is one of UT's lower division rhetoric and writing courses. So in the chapter Analyzing Textual Rhetoric, Nicotra says that summary is an important part of a rhetorical analysis, and I think we can extend that to academic arguments in general. She describes summary as a shorter version of an original text, saying that a summary should not only provide key identifying information about the text, like its author and the title, but it should also distill the main points of the text. And she notes that a successful summary should give readers a good sense of the text you're responding to and indicate that you actually understand it. So I'm curious, how do you make sense of summarization?
I think it's like Nicotra says, when you're writing a summary, you're providing a concise version of a text within your own argument. So the summary in that sense is the first step toward incorporating another text into your own. And I think sometimes it's easy as a student when you hear that you need to have three sources or quotations or whatever, and you write your paper and you try to drop those three quotations into them without almost changing the paper. But that's not really the best way to do it, to incorporate scholarship. You know, it's not that it's wrong, but as a student, it's much harder this way, actually. You know, I think for me, it's better, but it's also easier to build your paper by engaging with other scholarship from the start. So to do that, you need to give the reader a good sense of what you're responding to and how you make sense of that other article. So before you even include a quotation, you usually need to give the reader a sense of the project it came from.
Nicotra also mentions that summaries should be fair to the original text, even generous, and that summaries don't include the summarizer's opinions. What does that mean to you?
I think it means that when you're summarizing, you shouldn't start off by saying, in a terrible argument, author X argues Z argument or anything like that, right? You can certainly challenge an argument, but I think you first need to make clear to the reader that you actually understand the text and that you're giving it its due, that you've sort of done the work to understand the argument on its own terms. You want your reader to kind of go, oh, this person, at least they know what's going on. After you provide the fair summary, then you can go and work to complicate it or extend it or whatever you want to do with it.
And Nicotra mentions that summaries are a notoriously difficult task. So what do you think is difficult about writing a summary?
I think for me, if you go into it thinking you're trying to perfectly capture the original text, it's always going to be impossible, because the only way to do that, it would be to recreate the text word for word, right? That's the only way to give a perfect reproduction of it. But instead, we have to give this partial one, the shorter version. So for me, the difficult thing is putting somebody else's project into your own words, but in a way that's fair to them. And that's just a difficult thing. I think you've really got to understand what the argument is. So you've got to just know it inside and out. You've got to read it, reread it again.
I see, yeah. Like attributing the argument to the author, right? Because you have to keep doing it throughout a text, right? Make it clear that it's not your argument, it's theirs.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad that Nicotra says it's so difficult, notoriously difficult, because it is. It's as hard as anything we, I think, ask students to do, that we ourselves have to do. But it's also so elemental, right? So it's one of the first things that students are asked to do, even though it's very difficult.
I mean, I would ask you now, like, what's your approach? How would you summarize a text?
I think the first move is to know the article that you're summarizing inside and out. So you go through it, you read it, you mark it up. Nicotra talks about reading rhetorically. I think you do all that stuff so you know it inside and out. And then for me, when you actually sit down to write it, I think the first move in the first sentence, you can include the identifying information that Nicotra talks about, but also in that first sentence, maybe the second sentence too, you give that big umbrella, you cast that wide net, and you talk about what the author's project is. You know, what are they actually, what's their overarching, what's the thing about? What are they arguing? What's the main takeaway? What's sort of the purpose of this thing? What's the author trying to do? And then from that, you can kind of start funneling it down. You can start talking about how they prove their project, how they go about structuring it, or you can even funnel it so far down to a specific concept that you want to engage with.
Well, thank you so much, Mac.
Yeah, no problem.
And remember, you can find information about the University Writing Center at uwc.utexas.edu.